This is LXBN TV, and I'm Colin O'Keefe. The DePuy hip replacement recall has been making national news constantly over the past few months. To explain the latest developments, we bring in Jonathan Rosenfeld of Rosenfeld Injury Lawyers and the Nursing Homes Abuse Blog. First off, obviously the DePuy hip replacement scandal has been in and out of the news constantly, but for those who don't know, can you give us some background on just how big of a story this is?
Sure. Well, DePuy, we're talking about the DePuy ASR hip resurfacing system as well as the DePuy ASR complete hip replacement. And it's a very popular system that's been used since about 2003. It was approved by the FDA, and it was on the market until about August 2010. And approximately 90+ thousand people have received the hip across the world, and a significant number of those people have had hip implants in the United States.
Wow.
And basically what we're seeing now is we're seeing a series of problems related to the design of the hip. Unlike other artificial hip devices, the DePuy device is a metal-on-metal device. It uses a metal ball and a metal socket. So there's actually two metal pieces rubbing against one another that it's intended to mimic the actual normal hip.
Yep.
And what happens is that what we've seen is that the design of the hip itself, in terms of the actual dimensions as well as the materials used in the hip, have become problematic in a lot of people. And it's resulted in pain, it's resulted in fractures, it's resulted in dislocations of the hip, as well as a pretty serious condition known as metal poisoning, in which the actual pieces of the metals used in the manufacture of the device actually get broken off and sharded off and absorbed into the body. So we're dealing with a very serious situation here.
Yeah, there's just a lot of terrible complications from this. And second, to make matters worse, you've written a couple times recently about how the company continued, to put profits before, their patients' well-being. What evidence, you wrote about this, but what evidence makes you think this?
Well, I think there's, if we were to sum up this whole DePuy situation in a word, I think there's the overall trend is just a lot of uncertainty here. What we're seeing is we're seeing a product that was brought into the market where there were some actual complaints by consumers very shortly after the implant, and these complaints were made to the FDA. And despite the FDA's knowledge as well as DePuy's knowledge about these, steady stream of complaints, the product was kept on the market until August 2010. And there's substantial evidence out there which shows that going back years before this, executives at DePuy knew about this higher level of failure, and instead of pulling the product from the market, they decided to use up the available stock and allow the product to be implanted in more and more people. The main problem that we're seeing with DePuy cases is that unlike other types of artificial hips which have a life expectancy of 15 to 20 years, DePuy has a failure rate of about anywhere from 15 up to an estimated maybe 50%. And what that means is that a lot of these people, need to have these hips replaced a lot sooner than they would like to, and it's a tremendous amount of expense and problems for these people.
Yeah, I mean, branching off of that point, and lastly, this impact of this recall goes far beyond those individuals with the with the replacement implant. What can you tell us about the monetary reach of this recall? I mean, obviously, it goes beyond just those people.
Well, the problem that we're seeing, again, I mean, uncertainty is the word of the day here. Mm-hmm. We've got people who have the hip who have problems. We've got people who have the hip and had to have revision surgery, and we've got people who have the hip and they may have some complications, but they're not really sure of what's going on. Mm-hmm. All of these people will need either future medical care and or future monitoring for really the remainder of their lives. Mm-hmm. When you're talking about some people who have a hip revision surgery, those hip revisions tend to take a little bit they tend to be a little bit less effective than that initial surgery. And so it's basically a shorter and shorter life expectancy for those products. Mm-hmm. And when you look at the price of these procedures, the actual, dollars and cents that goes into just the surgeries alone, we're talking tens and tens of thousands of dollars potentially per person. Mm-hmm. And when you add in, lost time, pain and suffering, a lot of these people, especially with DePuy, they tend to be a little bit younger and more active people. So these people, it's impacted their lives a lot more substantially than most people would realize on the surface.
Mm-hmm. And it's something where, it's my understanding that it could impact the just general insurance rates across the country. Just this recall could have a huge impact going forward. So it's a story that continues to develop and continues to see new things going out. So it's going to be interesting to watch going forward. Once again, that was Jonathan Rosenfeld of Rosenfeld Injury Lawyers and a nursing homes abuse blog. For more on the recall, be sure to check out his publication at nursinghomesabuseblog.com. Also authors Child Injury Laws blog at childinjurylaws.com. Both are excellent publications for any personal injury lawyer, especially personal injury lawyers who are blogging to take a look at. So be sure to check those out. Once again, thanks for your time, Jonathan.
Hey, no problem. I appreciate it.